Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King. Today we're not reviewing Heroes because Mr. Postman decided not to deliver it. Not Burning Shed's fault, that's the UK distributor. They posted it on Wednesday and I still haven't got it. Still not here. Where is it?
Privatised Royal Mail, that is, Kev.
Yep. See, privatisation. Political. And we're not going to be political today.
Oh yeah, politics is banned today.
If you want to post something political in the comments section, we'll delete your comment.
Will we?
Don't know, shall we?
No. We're not Nazis, Kev.
No, fascists. I'm not talking about politics. Right, okay. Yeah, so Roger Waters has released a new album, so we thought we'd do that one instead. We haven't listened to it.
Yeah, but are we going to charge for this one, Kev?
We're not charging for this one, no. Free. See, a bit of a lost leader, this one.
Yeah. Don't worry, there'll be adverts for sometime sad.
Yeah.
All over this.
Yeah, so
don't worry.
Yeah. So yeah, I have listened to it once, actually. So shall I comment on it first? Then we're going to listen to it. We'll try and cut out the bits where we're listening to it, and hopefully not get any copyright problems. And then we'll comment on it. So
It's an interesting format for us, won't it?
Yes.
It's a new one.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, my initial thoughts. It's terrible. Hardly any guitar solos. The melodies weren't bland enough. The lyrics actually had me thinking about actual things, and I even stayed awake through the whole album. Hashtag rattle that lock joke. Predictably, and what everyone in the world is saying right now, this is all very familiar. It's the 6th album in this style. You know, if we don't count When the Wind Blew. Everything you'd expect, the themes, the chords, the sound effects, there's no surprises. See what I did there? And the subject matters are even more predictable, possibly except for one, which we're not going to mention. I think that misses the point. What did you expect? It's a Roger Waters album. Why would, at age 78, 94, would he make an album in a different style? He's always done that. You know, he's always sort of repeated himself musically and whatever. Expecting, you know, a jazz fusion album about an ancient religion would be an error. Let's be fair. That albums like that don't generally come out good. And actually, from a production point of view, it's actually very different. It's got the sort of ambient thing because it's produced by the Radiohead guy, and I'm not sure about this. This is my one criticism, really, or my wrong big criticism at the moment. It's less direct. Is that the way we want it? Is this the production we really want? So the heavier stuff is kind of, and sometimes vocals are distorted. Sometimes you can't hear what he's singing. You're supposed to hear what he's saying. He's not Tom York, where he's just talking gibberish. You need to hear what he's singing. And ironically, I don't think Floyd fans are going to like that. But then maybe that's a good thing.
Do Floyd fans generally like Radio Chaos and things like that?
Yeah, they do. They do like Radio Chaos. I don't know why, I don't. So yeah, should we do it?
Track 1.
Track 1.
When We Were Young.
When we were young. Is that the end of the first track?
Yeah.
Good. I can't hear what you're saying.
I don't care. I quite like it.
Good.
There's a thing about Roger Waters, yeah. And the idea of another Roger Waters album, about 10 years ago, would have been like,
Yeah.
But then, with the Wall tour that he did, there was a sense that he kind of sort of rekindled or refound the special thing of Pink Floyd. Going to see the Wall live was
yeah.
You know, it felt like a piece of Pink Floyd history.
Yeah.
And it felt a bit of the being part of the Pink Floyd arc sort of thing. And when you came out with the idea of a new album, maybe people got a little bit excited that there was that this was going to be more Pink Floyd. Yeah. This was going to be Roger Waters, because you know you look at some of the old Roger Waters solo stuff when he did songs from the Pink Floyd era, and it was slightly different, yeah. You know, but the latest tours was exactly like Pink Floyd's performance.
Yeah.
Of the Wall sort of thing. So there's a sense of wow, he's found Pink Floyd again. We're going to get essentially a Pink Floyd album. After all, Roger Waters is the creative force behind Pink Floyd.
Dark Side of the Moon by Roger Waters.
Cue millions of comments saying you utter prick. And that first track is intriguing. None of that happens, admittedly, and is intriguing. Yeah. The only thing I'll point out is the first part of Satira is intriguing.
It's boring.
And then it gets a bit this is actually opera, isn't it? And
it's just some opera.
See where it goes from here. Aptly named Déjà Vu.
Yeah. You realise those people complaining that it's the same missed the point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff. That's the same stuff to sing about because the same stuff is happening. That's what he's saying.
It's interesting, you could dismiss this very early on, saying, "Oh, it sounds a bit like it starts like a bit like a Comfortably Numb sort of reboot, the sort of
and
acoustic guitar,
and etc. etc.
And it's easy to dismiss it there, but actually, the song itself, there's a profoundness about Roger Waters. We see, you get these great stories of the age. They talk about heroes defining something about that age in which they grew up. So like Bilbo Baggins, or Freddy, he's a very simple person, taking on great hordes, and it's kind of resonated with the Second World War, where you've got people at home defending against this great Nazi horde coming in, and it just resonates with people, and it sort of grows up. What Roger Waters does is he encapsulates sort of like the sorrow of the age, and that is really sort of the current political climate. Lots of things going on. People going towards the fringes because standard politics isn't working. It's because people are saying, well, we've been through this.
Yeah.
And we've been through it again, and we've been through it again, and you're saying the same things, and nothing's changing. And it's so on point with where we are at the moment. It's sort of
really profound.
Yeah, it is really quite profound. Yeah, and it's hard. Something like that you don't normally get from the first listen. Because we know Roger Waters.
We already know.
We're looking for it, and.
But there what he's saying, he's not saying, remember the Second World War, my dad died. He's not saying that. He's saying you're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Which isn't a new thing. So yeah. And under my Gulf Stream in circular pools, there's 99 cents worth of drunkards and fools. I don't know what the trout in the streams are all hermaphrodites. What? No idea.
Got a bit of Python in there again. Yeah. Next song.
Yep. Yeah, that's classic Waters in a different way. In that it's sort of beautiful, metaphoric stuff, and you kind of got an idea what it's about. And then he mentions iPhones. And that's about it.
I think that's a sort of bringing it over to, because his stuff works best when there's a sort of a dual thing going on there, when he's sort of relating it to people's lives. Because when you talk about refugees, the vast majority of people who are going to go out and buy this don't have that personal experience. Yeah, so you need something to bring it to our experience. I mean, on first listen, it feels a little bit clunky to me. It feels a little bit sort of, okay, he's making a blatant political point, he's not sort of rising above that and looking at it sort of through an interesting lens or anything like that. I mean, it's very sort of melancholic and in keeping with what he's trying to do.
The first thing you think about is who's listening, like you said.
Yeah.
And there's two types of Floyd fan there. There's Floyd fans who are going to try and are feeling alienated and cold about it and trying to empathise, and there's the ones who don't want to empathise at all and probably angry that how dare you think about that, I suppose. Next.
Picture That by Roger Waters.
No apologies for guessing what that's about. First bit of proper guitar right at the end. It's really good because we haven't had guitar all over it, but pretty unremarkable in terms of the notes. Great, but the playing session musician. Bing. That was much better the second time. But I've got the lyrics in front of me. I was annoyed that the vocals were distorted and it was sort of... but it worked. It seemed to work much better the second time for some reason. And yeah, obviously, Welcome to the Machine, Sheep, etc, etc, etc. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's sheep. Notice it's not pigs, it's sheep. I think that's a comment in itself. But yeah, and I also didn't... There's that melancholy, the nostalgia, yearning, kind of a hopelessness, or something lost is in there in the music, which I really like, actually. And again, the first time that melody, the do do do, I thought was a bit sort of crass, but it worked. Yeah, it seems to be great. It seems to be benefiting from repeated listening, or I'll just get bored of it. I don't know yet.
I don't know, because sort of I was starting to think toward the end of that. Actually, the one thing you can say is that the music's not getting in the way of this. And it almost feels constructed so that the music doesn't get in the way.
Yes.
Whereas Pink Floyd, the music was an epic part of it, yeah. There was something very elegant about Pink Floyd music. It was simple, but beautifully so. And it formed a major part of the listening experience. And here we are, we're, 5 tracks in?
Yeah.
And it's the first time we've actually...
Talked about the music.
Talked about the music, sort of thing. I don't know if that is significant or...
It's a strange thing, isn't it? I mean, I don't... Very rarely do I care at all about lyrics. I usually just don't even listen. But Roger Waters, that's what he is, and it's so good, and maybe I'm already linked with that because of Floyd.
I mean, does this sort of link into the Déjà Vu angle is such a strong theme? It almost strikes me as that is the missing theme from Roger Waters' sort of career.
Yeah.
And he stumbled on it, and bloody hell, yeah, he's right. This is something that needs to be explored by Roger Waters. Now, how does this tie into Déjà Vu?
Mm.
It's not amazingly obvious. It sounds a little bit about moaning about the current state of affairs.
No,
which is
picture Lily with that fucking brain. Where we heard that before.
Which is sort of, that's not Roger Waters' thing. There are people out there who take that sort of thing. But I mean, I would associate that kind of thing with Chumbawamba or something like that. Not particularly deep analysis. Yeah?
Yeah. I know, let's make it political. Let's write about Trump. Wow! Oh my God, that's profound. I never thought of that.
But I mean, you talked about hopelessness, and hopelessness does come through on that.
Yeah.
And hopelessness is definitely something that's recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that we look, I mean, certain people look back in the ages and think, well, just look at the hopelessness of that situation. Utter hopelessness of the life that people were brought into, and it seems to be happening all over again, sort of thing. So I mean, it does tie in, but it's a bit removed, and you have to make an argument for that. Whereas there are other things on here which you don't have to make. You don't have to make that argument because it's quite apparent where it fits in with that kind of theme.
Yeah.
If there is going to be a theme throughout them, which I suspect there will, knowing Roger Waters.
Well, I don't think there is, other than generally the world's crap. I don't think there is, but maybe we're going to find that actually.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect, when you listen to the, picture that, picture this, picture that, is quite dominant in there, obviously, he says it over and over. Mm-hmm. And I expected there to be sort of like more than one meaning to that, to bring something else, and it's not really apparent that it's anything more than, picture this, well, you don't have to because it's really happening, sort of thing, which is not really, it's not really deep analysis, is it?
No, other than, it's not just it's really happening now, because nothing's really changed. It's been happening the whole time. Yeah. Wow, is it really?
Broken Bones?
I'm not going to talk about what it's about yet. I want to talk about the fact that there was about to be a guitar solo there, and I think he knows there's about to be a guitar solo there. I think basically it's kind of been replaced by strings, I think, which is a big thing. I expected Jeff Beck to come in, bang, etc., and he didn't, and that emphasises the vocals, the lyrics. Not that he needs to do that.
Well, yeah, you would have thought. I mean, it seems so out there. It almost makes me wonder, did he play it to David Gilmour and say, look, he needs a guitar solo there. Do you want to do it?
Maybe, yeah. If he said no, it was all, fuck you, we're not having a guitar solo.
You know what I mean? It's sort of, it would have been the cherry on the cake, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If there had been a
Gilmour
guitar solo. What could have been?
Well, the problem is he would have said, well, actually, it's just too interesting, we can make it more boring. Yeah. Ding, there you go.
It's hard not to talk about the content. All I'm going to say is, the one thing you can say about Roger Waters is he's thought-provoking. And there are elements in that song that are very thought-provoking. And maybe it gets, I'm not saying it happens in this song, but you've got to be a bit careful with the thought-provoking elements. Don't get consumed by the sort of anger. Because, well, yeah. But I don't, that's just right for me. It's sort of, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from there. Not everyone will, though. Is this the life we really want?
Is this the album you really want?
Roger Waters hates Britain.
That is amused to death too. This is kind of, I told you. He's already done that. And look, it's too obvious to comment on it now. Yeah, really good. And there was lots of obvious Floyd bits. There were, but not like the other songs. Well, yeah, that's sheep. And I thought, I'm saying this after knowing the fact that it's produced by the Radiohead guy, is that Roger Waters does Radiohead with Roger Waters lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean,
you read the lyrics and you think, this is going to be a bit bashed over the head.
Yeah. Because
it doesn't look like it looks like it's going to be forced into the music. Actually, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really quite good.
That main theme is, some people say, it's Have a Cigar, but it's a lot of things. It's Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Is that the best thing so far? Probably is, isn't it?
Well then, Bird in a Gale. Welcome, my son.
Welcome to the Bird in the Gale. Yeah, certainly last night this was the point where I got album fatigue. It's like a little bit. The song bit anyway is like a little bit, isn't it? It's like that middle bit, the end bit. Was that more the producer? How much was Waters involved in that? Yeah. And even the Waters bit, it's the most Radioheady stuff we've heard so far.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like the beginning of the third act to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we reached a bit of a peak.
Yeah, and the chord changes. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, very.
And sort of the wall does that a little bit, doesn't it?
It does.
It's very much that kind of structure. So I listen to that and think, okay, we're at the beginning of the third act, and it's always a bit of not an iffy song, but you can't have something too amazing.
Yeah,
This
that's true.
I hope you see what I'm hoping for now is there's going to be a massive climax at the end.
Is everybody in there?
But we'll have to see. See whether it all comes together.
I think the clocks step too far. And I think that's the producer, I reckon, thinking, yeah, big boy, cool, set the clocks. I bet he didn't go in a real clock shop. We could download. There. I've done the production. Finished. You know what? I think there's plenty of variation here. I'm not getting the pros and cons feeling of it's all the same, even though it is, technically. Maybe it's not amazing. The strings, that's key to the whole album. I think whoever thought of that, whether it was producer or whether it was Waters, I think is brilliant. I think that really lifts it instead of just more guitar.
Yeah.
You can imagine turning Eric Clapton to just faff around on it. Would have been, stick some strings in it. Sounds great.
Yeah, although actually I got the sense while listening to that. I think at that point I'm looking for a change in approach.
Well, that's not going to happen, is it?
Well,
That's the thing. That's the criticism of his album, isn't it?
yeah, it's a sort of, you want that final bit to be something different, if you know what I mean. Yeah, look at the whole thing from a different angle, and it does very much feel. Well, you say there is plenty of variation, but it feels very very similar actually. Nasty bad things happening to people and all that kind of stuff. Maybe if we listen to it in the correct order.
Yes, we did actually do some. Sorry.
We've actually gone to Smell the Roses, which is a bit upbeat, and then we're going back to something that's quite.
Yeah, we may have made a mistake. That's probably our fault.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Wake up and smell the roses, Kev.
Yeah, there we go. First overtly rock song. It's the jam bit from Echoes, isn't it? Well, it's also and the other number of forward things in the singer. And the lyrics as well, much more normal rock lyrics. That could have been on Radio Chaos. Or it could have been on Muse to Death, and probably not Pros and Cons or Final Cut of the Wall. The sound effects in the middle, obvious animal stuff, were they just samples from animals? But it sounded like just recordings of TV and stuff, sounding like the sound effects from animals, which, if that's true, that's really good.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I like that. I mean, it had an actual guitar solo in there.
Interestingly muted. I don't mean I mean, interestingly, the guitar isn't
Yeah.
fucking guitarists.
That's good. I mean, of the songs on the album, it was the first song I'd actually play to Sarah, sort of, because it is a bit of a rock track.
Yeah, in the 80s that would have been the single.
Yeah.
Not Knacker, but yeah. So yeah, I listened to this, I looked at the lyrics, I was thinking, what's this about? I couldn't help but think something smutty. It turns out, this is actually a poem by Mahmoud Darwish, who's a poet. A lesson from the Kama Sutra. So it is, actually. Okay, fair enough. Anything else to say about that one?
Next track, Oceans Apart.
Ocean. Oh, okay, well, that sounds very familiar. A bit like Poles Apart. Is that the whole track?
That's the whole track, and then Runs Apart Me Die. It's like, I think, Wait for Oceans Apart, Apart Me Die all seem to be one
thing.
One thing, yeah.
It's an extra verse to Pigs on the Wing. Which was a little bit of hope on animals. I just stick that on the end. Part of me died at the end.
Well, it's good. It's almost like an extra verse of the poem as well, isn't it? It's sort of like, well, this is the poem, and this is a sort of
my little thing to it.
Now,
here we go. Here we go. Yeah, so there we go. No happy ending. No big musical at the end. Just like Muse to Death has got. He didn't go for that at all. He just, it's the exactly what people criticise him for that he's so good at. Actually, that's so good about him. It's his list.
Yeah, it's a catalogue of what I said earlier, the sorrows of our time. And it's weird, he's got a way of making you hang on every word.
Yeah.
He says. And there's 14 seconds of silence at the end. and we were both waiting for something more to come in. You know,
nothing
we were
did.
listening, and nothing did. And I think that 14 seconds of silence is absolutely crucial to the whole thing. It's to sort of reflect on this. I'm giving you 14 seconds now to actually reflect on what I'm saying, for you to appreciate what I'm saying, sort of thing. And the good thing about it is, I look at it from a political stance up until that point, but what he's actually saying in there is he's sort of addressing the personal aspect of it.
Yes.
So you can sit and watch the TV and just ignore all this going on, and that's the real crime. That's a very difficult point to argue in the current climate, but you know, it's great.
Yeah,
it's Roger Waters, you know,
and it is amused to death too. And it is, you know, well, nothing else to say. I told you that we're still doing it. It's worse. You know, and obviously everyone was saying about 1984 a few months ago, weren't they? Everything's gone like 1984. It's not really. It's like Amusing Ourselves to Death, which is this other book, which of course Waters already did an album on in like 1992, and here he is saying it again.
I heard someone actually say it's almost as if the other day. Almost as if George Orwell never existed. The double speak and the way we're manipulated is almost as if that critique doesn't exist and doesn't sort of
We've just heard it. And on the TV, we've just heard it. That it's horrible. You know, it really is just so crass and horrible. And that's what's happening.
Yeah,
it's so obvious in that moment. I don't think we can egg it yet. Shouldn't we egg it in 6 months?
I suppose this is a first impressions video, isn't it? Which we've never done before.
Yeah, I've listened to it twice, and the first time there's nothing almost, you know.
I mean, it's an interesting listening to, because what we've done here is obviously we've had, because you said that in places the lyrics are quite hard to discern, so you brought the lyrics up on each song, and it's sort of
made a big difference.
It's made a big difference.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't get many albums like that these days.
You don't, no.
The lyrics are actually important.
I've got to say, I don't know if I actually said it at the start, that I thought there was the one big thing he didn't talk about on the album. He did, it's all over the album, but which we're not going to talk about. It's not a concept album.
No.
Except that's almost... It is a concept album, but that's all there is to say. There's nothing else to say. that's it. Sorry.
It would have been really nice to have some Dave Gilmour on there, but...
That would have been epic and fantastic.
Yeah, there you go, what can you do?
Maybe he asked Jeff Beck, and Jeff Beck said no, and he thought, well, can't get Jeff Beck, can't get Gilmour, forget it.
Some strings instead.
Yeah.
And it works well. I mean, musically it's perfectly fine. There's no point you thinking, oh, this is a bit...
Another guitar solo. He's a very good guitarist, though. Is the song any good? There's a song? Yeah, obviously, comparing it to Gilmour's dreary stuff, it's quite funny, especially Rattle That Music. But it's not fair, is it? It's not fair, and we're only doing it because it's funny. You know, that Gilmour, he became a songwriter quite late, well, very late in his career, really. It wasn't until the mid-90s he could really be a songwriter. It took a while. And he wasn't known as such. He's not famous for doing that. He's famous for playing on other people's songs and producing other people's songs and arranging, adding bits to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, so, yeah, it's quite funny, but it doesn't mean anything. Roger Waters is Roger Waters, and this album, Roger Waters is being Roger Waters. Mm-hmm. And some of the responses seem very strange. What did you expect? This album sounds like Roger Waters. How dare he? I wonder, I think some, not all of them, but some of the reviews, I'm sure, negative reviews, they just don't like music, but I think that there's bias in there. If anyone's negative about it, one, it's his personality, even though you've never met him. His projected personality can be dislikable, and that obviously that makes people dislike music, which I think is stupid. But I think some of the negative reviews, I've not read any professional negative reviews, they've all been very, very positive. But the negative, Amazon reviews, I read in between the lines, I see something political in there, which is a shame.
But then again, it's a political album, He's not shying away from that, so you've got to expect that. There are just some people who will not
listen to another voice. If they're saying the wrong thing, then it's bad. Obviously, music tends to be of a progressive slant. That's just going to be the nature of it, isn't it? But Rush, right? They've got the Trees. That song, that's really good, and that's a political song in the other direction. But you don't get people saying, "Well, they're singing about the wrong thing, so it's crap." The music's great, so who cares? There's some hilarious reviews. There really are. I've read some. The big glossy magazine reviews that are actually on the internet. That he's mixing this classic Floyd era of people, the bong smoking, blah 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 blah, with a new angry political slant He's angry in his old age. He used to be so chill. He's the same. It's the same. That's the point. It's the same. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what took him so long to make an album. I remember at one point he said that he was writing this. It was going to be a concept album based in a bar, and each song was like another person in the bar. And maybe he just realised he was just repeating himself, and he couldn't. And then he realised actually that's the point. Nothing's changed. Déjà vu.
That for me is the hook of the album.
Yeah.
That déjà vu, it's sort of it's quite illuminating. It has a very good way of getting the message across in a not so. It is direct, but there is subtlety there as well. I mean, he is an artist. He is an artist, as I was understanding it. He'll take an idea, a concept, and he'll look at it in multiple ways and shape it into something. And he will try and get some message across without saying it. And that, for me, is what art's all about. It's about making ideas concrete without, without the explanation. It's making people feel it.
Yeah, without the exposition, like a movie. This is happening now.
And he obviously has a very melancholic view on things.
Mm-hmm.
That means he does that type of thing very, very well. And there's a certain honesty about that. I mean, people, you can sort of get a bit fatigued by it all. I mean, that's a Radiohead thing, sort of. Oh yeah, one song's all right, but an whole album you want to slash you sort of thing. But I mean, he is what he is, and he makes no bones about it. And that's what motivates him, and that's what he does.
Exactly.
That's got to be respected. There's no sort of manipulation there, no sort of studying the market. Let's put an upbeat song here because that'll be sell more albums. There's none of that.
He's just done Roger Waters' thing.
Yeah, which he can do because he's incredibly wealthy and he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. Yeah.
Since the Wall tour, he's unbelievably wealthy. So I suppose the last thing, how does it compare to stuff? I think it's better than Pros and Cons and Radio Chaos. I don't think there's any question of that. That was the 80s, so it isn't fair because it's the 80s. And the Muse to Death, don't know. And even Muse to Death, it is near the 80s, and it does. You can tell. Glossy singing stuff is gone. There's a little bit of oohs from singers. I think that's Déjà Vu actually. And I thought that was very clever at the very end. Actually, almost does Actual Mother. Which is great. It's Wall type, Final Cut type, Pros and Cons type, wailing and quite acoustic stuff, And it's nothing like Dark Side of the Moon by Roger Waters. So is that it?
That's it.
That's it. So I think, maybe 6 months or a year, whatever, I don't know. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
If we're still alive. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night!